Hi there, and welcome to another Strange Times poetry broadcast. I'm coming to you live from the Poetry Bookshelf. And for those of you who haven't joined me before, I'm going to be reading three uplifting poems, one by a famous author, one by a poet that I know, and one by myself. And we air Strange Times poetry broadcast airs every night at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you want to follow us and keep seeing lovely episodes, please like us on our Facebook page. All right, so the theme for tonight is observation, looking. And by observation, I think I also just mean attention and, you know, how paying attention to, to something in our surroundings, something beautiful, something calming, can draw us into the present moment, away from some of the worries, and also, um, that kind of attention is the appreciate. From it grows the appreciation we need for gratitude. From it grows, prayer, and in some cases, hope from those breaths of attention, of observation. Um, so we're going to see how each of these three poets does it a little bit differently. Um, The first poem I'm going to read is Here and Now. It's by Peter Balakian. Even though he's a famous poet, did win Pulitzer or something like that, he also is technically a friend because I worked with him at Colgate back in the day of 2018. Um, and this poem comes from the Ozone Journal, his book from the University of Chicago Press. You should definitely check this one out. I think this won a Pulitzer Prize. No big. Um, but anyway, I think this poem pays attention, and it really sort of rejects grandiose statements about the world, but exists in those small noticings of beauty, and you'll see how that works. Here and now. The day comes in strips of yellow glass over trees. When I tell you the day is a poem, I'm only talking to you, and only the sky is listening. The sky is listening. The sky is as hopeful as I am, walking into the pomegranate seeds of the wind that whips up the seawall. If you want the poem to take on everything, walk into a hackberry tree, then walk out beyond the seawall. I'm not far from a room where Van Gogh was a patient, his head on a pillow, hearing the mistral careen off the seawall, hearing the falvus leaves pelt the sarcophagi. Here and now, the air of the tepidarium kissed my jaw, and pigeons ghosting in the blue loved me for a second, before the wind broke branches and guttered into the river. What question can I ask you? How will the sky answer the wind? The dawn isn't heartbreaking. The world isn't full of love. So I think this sort of ending, the dawn isn't heartbreaking, the world isn't full of love, is sort of referring back to these seconds in the poem, like seconds of beauty. The pigeons ghosting in the blue loved me for a second before the wind broke branches and guttered into the river. So it's not a poem or a world that's just like, ah, love. It's more like those sort of a single moment and a little bit more the sort of realism there in that. All right. Our next poet, Jennifer Jean, has done some amazing work with translation, working with women who were trafficked, and poetry, and using poetry, I think, in a way for social justice, for comfort, and to sort of get out some of those difficult experiences from the past in a positive way. Um, and in this poem, we're looking at a bird, but I think we're also looking at a person who is coming back, who is getting a second wind. So this is called Bird, for survivors of abuse and trafficking residing at the Breaking Free Safe House in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And her book, you can read more of her work in The Fool, which is a lovely book. And I think she has more work forthcoming, so I'm excited to see what that'll be. Bird. Rock Wren, Godwit, Bobolink? What are we looking at? What's beaked and broken, free from a classic iron bell cage, with a blown out hole opposite a latched door? No thickened keratin could pack that well. No claw-turned fist busted up that joint. Inside, she was key. She was cheap. She was a flipped bad finger. Now this bird wings as every bird stepping out of the life, with no credit, no reference, and a little self-love. What are we looking at? A second wind. The flight inside the creature that is the holy, eternal verb is who bent the metal, is the mother of a lighter bone, the kind that terror cannot allow. I just love how she plays with all these parts of the bird, like flipping the bird, and this sort of strength of the second wind that is catching the flight inside the creature. Um, I think we're all looking for a second wind as things are extending. Um, we're looking for second, that second breath, and here it is seen by just looking closely. And this last poem, Suddenly Joy, is by myself. And this is an old one. Have to dig into the vaults of positivity here. Um, and this poem was inspired by working with sheep in the spring. So it was both, sort of watching them go about their ways, but I think observation sort of turns into experience as they nudge into you and sort of knock you into the place of the poem. All right. Suddenly Joy. Something in the charcoal tasting air, the vigor of the child laden sheep burying their heads beneath the last rounds of dried hay, the snowbanks shrinking, roof puddles, day turning in to finish past 5, starting sharper and brighter each morning. It's like a hope that I could throw your jarred ashes, wrench through the tightening throat of past and responsibility, and land out on the soggy earth. Maybe this is March coming. Survived winter. Unsure after my last lover whether to swear off men or women. Your stored dust, a rationed poison in the root cellar to gorge in the cold months. The snow has melted a little, and there is room for me in the world, for all of us snatching at the fray of a cloth to knot our way in. I stand among the dumb animals that smelled it first, tasted it, their precocious bodies locked at angles with mine as I try to spread grain, butting against me, turning me towards the sun. The temperature rises and water swells teaspoon by teaspoon. Hidden underground, ash goes to seed, quiet and unforeseeable as a turn in sleep, waking on the second side, wrapped differently, breathing different air. So it's hard to talk about your own poem without being sentimental, but I don't know. This poem, I think back to writing it and just the moment of the sheep turning the speaker towards the sun. Um, and that feeling. I think the real crux of this poem is that feeling of there being room for the speaker in the world, kind of like Jean Valentine's, like, door in the mountain open. That feeling of things kind of opening up, of the world melting and things opening up for the speaker to be able to be in the world, to exist in the world. If that helps. All right. This has been a pleasure. I hope to see you all tomorrow night. Stay safe, stay sane, and good night.